Don't look. Don't look, guys.
All right, listen.
Don't look.
So here's the deal, Dave.
All right, man.
It's trade deadline day
So
in 2 days. In
essentially,
two
yes.
days, we're like, I mean, we're right there though. By tomorrow, we'll be saying isn't it like noon now? They changed it to not be midnight or something like. So
I
I
do
mean,
believe
it's
it's
right around the corner. So of course, people are talking about Thunder trades. So I mean, obviously, there's the one we talked about last time that we agreed it's not happening, so we can get over it. But let's talk about the other ones. The other ones that could happen. First name that comes to mind, Bertans.
hmm, for good reason.
Okay. I do think he has 2 years left on his contract. I think he's more valuable next year as an expiring contract. So that's one of the reasons I think that we might keep him. I could be wrong about all of this information, Dave. Who are you thinking might be available? I know you put a lot more thought into this.
What's up, Mwani? All right.
What's up,
The
buddy?
reason I've put a little bit more thought into this, it's just because I've had a lot of time on my hands. Let's be honest. I've been enjoying my break, Mark, and I've letting my brain go crazy on the possibility of trades and what would it take for a trade to happen here in Oklahoma City. First of all, I like to call it the cool 30 million. All right.
All
So
right.
if Sam Presti's trying to shave money right now and he's looking at his cool 30 million, you got Bertans, you got Usman Jang, and you got Mischic, right? They equal $30 million. Now you can put in another name blank here or blank there. But you've got this $30 million that is really something that you got to circle. Now, why did I put Usman Jang? Is because a lot of teams are going to want a first rounder from Oklahoma City, which I think Sam is going to be greedy as motherfucker when it comes to its first rounders, not trading it, but they will take a young asset. Usman Jang is a young asset. I think he's due 5.5 million or 5.5 million, someplace around there, in salary. So, and he's going to sign a longer contract. And I think you got to look at Usman as a $7 to $10 million asset on your team. So, are the Oklahoma City Thunder going to be willing to pay that out? That's up to them. But the reality is that if you're going to make a trade, you've got $30 million that you can play around with. That won't affect you in the long run. So, how you use that, it's up to you. What's up, Jaden?
So okay, so Jang, I still think based on what I've seen this year, like his progression is still taking place. Obviously, minutes are
Sure,
hard to come by,
sure.
but um and Micic has been an asset in games, and so is Jang.
Sure.
So but Micic more recently in big games that I can remember. Um like but Bertans hasn't really played much. Trey Mann
No,
hasn't been playing too much. Is there something like
I listen. If you're going to get
there?
rid of players, right? If you're going to get rid of players, and it's just going to be a player trade, you're going to open roster spots for Keontae Johnson, some of these other guys that are playing really well in the G League. Then sure, this is what needs to happen. You got to clear some of the deck, right? Bring in a young, talented player that's going to cost you about $30 million a year, recognizing that that is what you're about to pay out for these guys. You look at Usman Jang, you're going to sign him to what, a $40 million, 3 year, 4 year deal to keep him in Oklahoma City. So you got to look at that in the aspect of what we're willing to pay out. So can we get a young under 27 player that has a salary of 22 to $30 million, right? And can we find that type of asset that's going to come in and help us out right away? And a lot of people will say, yes, that's available. And for me, like there's very few guys that I would go out after like that. Okay. Now I don't think that these two players are available, but Dante Sabonis is one player that I think that you would trade a couple draft picks for and give young talented players for. And the other guy is the Miami Heat, man. You look at them and they're in that disarray moment, right? So what happens if Bam wants out? You got to look at that as a legit opportunity to swipe in there and give some assets up, do whatever it takes to get a player like
So
that caliber.
let me ask you
So
this. Are you thinking this is the time for Sam Presti to help reinforce this team to move forward? A lot of people think that he should wait. Do you think this is the time for him to do that?
well, this is what the discussion is going to continue up until tomorrow at the end of the trade deadline, is because what's happening, and I put up a an article the other day in ESPN. I'll share it again. But it's talking about with Bobby Marks, and when he goes into grave detail about what's going to happen with the new CBA and why it's so important that these teams are shedding some of these contracts, right? And they have to get rid of some of these high money, because you're looking at a team like Golden State or whatever that's paying $400 million this year to keep this team together. But next year, it's even worse because of the new way things are going. And
Hmm.
these teams, you just can't sit here and say that they're not going to try to make a deal and do something. And if Oklahoma City is sitting in a driver's place to pick up 2 extra first rounds, but they got to give up $30 million, like, why wouldn't they step in and help out a team like that? Like, help out a team that they need to get rid of a player, and you can swing that player across to blank, blank, blank. Like, the new CBA is going to change everything, guys. It's not the typical, new year when it comes to the NBA. You're going to be looking at something that's going to so dramatically impact every single part of the NBA. Bobby Marks, puts it out there, lays it forward. It says you want to have a team that sticks together, because that's going to be your most valuable asset. It is draft picks and a team that sticks together. And that's what Oklahoma City is all about right now.
So you think it's more about a CBA situation than like giving this team the ammunition they need for a deeper run?
Listen, if somebody offers us a player that is going to make us better for the run, and all we have to do is give them $30 million in contract that's essentially expiring, or young asset, why would we say no? Like, if this player is going to help us win a championship and win right now, and people are trying to dump money like nobody's business, it would be hard for Sam to be like, listen, this player would cost me 2 or 3 first rounders typically. But because
Mhm.
people are dumping salaries right and left, I can get them for 2 young assets that aren't going to play very much for the next 2 or 3 years.
So who are the teams that are about to hit the panic button?
Well, that's again why Sam Presti's in the driver's seat. How many teams are going to approach Sam at the panic button, pushing the panic button, and approach Sam and say, we need to get a deal done. We're willing to pay whatever the cost is to get a deal done. So in these situations where Sam would typically have to pay 2 first rounders for a player, you're going to see Sam take 2 first rounders to take that player. It's going to be flopped. So I think you're going to see the Chicago Bulls are obviously in just panic mode. I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be in panic mode. I think a team like the Blazers, I think you're looking at the Heat are wanting to shed some money, because they're not going to be really a playoff contender this year. I think the Pelicans are going to be a team that needs to shed. I also think the Golden State Warriors are the biggest team that needs to shed. And those moving pieces could land Oklahoma City with a sick deal, because they're going to need a third or fourth
So
team to get these deals
so
done.
you're thinking 3 to 4 team deal. The elements that go to the team that's trying to get off money are probably going to be tax relief. The
Yes.
elements of the team taking on the most money are probably going to be some sort of like pick package. And then there's
Plus
going to be
whatever.
a team that needs to facilitate that by taking on extra players, sending the picks over, and making sure everything just like all the wheels are lubricated, right? That's the
Correct.
Thunder. And
Yeah.
so the Thunder ends up with a guy like Kenny Hustle, or
Plus
a
2
guy
first
that's like
rounders, mind you
a
that.
throw-in guy. Remember the throw-in deal whenever we did we traded Steven Adams, right?
Yeah.
We ended up with George Hill
Mm-hmm.
and Kenny Hustle. You end up with these extra guys for being a part of
Oh
these
yeah.
big packages. A few other guys that we didn't end up keeping, but so that's kind of you think that's how we're gonna do it. You don't think in any way, shape, or form like we're trying to
We're not
like
seeking.
fully okay.
We're not. I would be shocked if Sam is seeking, because here's the thing about Sam. Um, he doesn't like doing trades mid-season typically. He just
Right.
doesn't. If you look at his pedigree in the past, he does very few mid-trade seasons, mid-trade players during the season. So it would have to be a situation where it was literally gifted to us. And if you think about the new CBA, this is the time it happens. As a player, it's just like
Yeah.
essentially gifted to you just by helping out. You know, like that's what we're talking about. And Oklahoma City is a perfect place for a player that's like, that's a $30 million player that's not getting the typical love he needs to rebuild his game. to me, like, there's few players out there, but I mean, we played against. I mean, honestly, if I'm looking at it and I'm saying there's a couple players that I'm circling right now that would be in a big time trade, you got to look at some of these young players that came out around the time that Josh Giddey came out. You just got to do it. Scotty Barnes. You got to look at some of these other guys that their teams are rebuilding right now, and they need more draft picks and they need more assets. They need more this and that than they need some players. And I think that what you're going to see is just a natural instinction to get rid of some of the salary caps and make sure that they can stay under. And that's how Oklahoma City is going to land on a sick deal. And it's going to be land because that person is going to be calling up Sam Presti, be like, please, 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 please. And Sam Presti, like, I don't like to do season trades. I don't like to do it. Like, and finally, if that happens, that's where he's going. This is not Sam Presti picking up the phone call and calling everybody saying, here's my players that are available. I'm willing to trade 2 first-round draft picks. I mean, that is not what's happening right now. It's just not.
But in a sense, though, you started out by making an argument that there's up to $30 million in space of players who are basically non-everyday rotational players. And in doing that, you could open up the ability to help any team do pretty much anything, except for Golden State Warriors getting off of all of their deals. You could help them get off of a couple of mistakes, but not all their mistakes. That's a big.
You bring up a really good point, because if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Andrew Wiggins, and I'm Golden State Warriors, right? Andrew Wiggins is making someplace around $30 million, right? I'm sitting there saying, who's going to take $30 million? Now, I'm not a huge Andrew Wiggins fan, right? But if Andrew Wiggins came attached with blank amount of draft picks, I would be a huge Andrew Wiggins fan. It would be a much different thing if we got paid to take on a salary that pretty much matches up with 3 players that aren't, full-time players. Again, we would rehab Andrew Wiggins and trade him in a couple of years and all that other stuff.
But we could help him land in Charlotte.
We hold on to him for the end of the year until we are able to get where he needs to get. My point is that there's so many things that we can do as a team to allow other teams to get off of the money. And we have, I think, $12 or $14 million before we hit the first cap, which we're not going to touch. We don't want to fuck around with that. But if you think about that, that's how much we have, right? On top of 30. So we have a significant amount of room for pay, and it just be a natural move in. And yes, we're going to have to pay, Josh and, Chet and J-Dub and all these other guys. I get it. I totally understand. But anything that happens is going to be a 2-year deal that we're bringing on. It's just going to be a player that's going to take 2 years and then he's gone. And because of that, you can look at this roster and you can say, yeah, there's $30 million right there. Yes, Bertans is an aspiring contract next year, but if you take him on, he's, it's a $17 million, I think it is. So you just add the money.
Let's go back to the beginning, because I got to admit, when you started out by throwing Jang and Micic in there, I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, okay. So that says to me something not about you, but more about how I feel about those players, because I really do think that there's a bright future for those guys. Do you still think it's with the Thunder?
I think there's going to be what I've been looking at. I circled 6 guys on the Thunder that I feel like their backs are against the wall right now. And I won't get into those 6 guys because I don't want to be pointing anybody out. But there's 6 players that I feel like it's a do or die situation for them. Why is that? Because our wet dream, essentially, with this next year's draft is coming true. And let me just explain to you what I mean by that. Okay, guys? The Utah Jazz right now are sitting in a nice place of 10th place in the West. All right. So meaning that at this point, we're going to get that pick, and it's going to be someplace between 11, 12, or 13. Right? The Houston Rockets are sitting in 9th place right now. Now, they're sitting in a place that is quite particular about what's going to happen next, right? Is the Houston Rockets going to all of a sudden lose a couple players and then they're going to start tanking, and then their pick is going to be like, well, we're going to try to get in the bottom 5, but there's too far ahead to be able to even try that.
Yeah, that's not
So
happening.
if they start tanking for any stretch of reason, we're getting their pick. So it could end up between 6 and 8. Think about that. In this next year draft, we could still end up with, 11th pick or 12th pick and the 6th pick. So with that being said, is like, what else do we need to keep doing? We just need to keep on playing.
Shout out Alhambra for keeping us up to date on the pick status.
If we think about that, and we know we have 2 roster spots coming available to us, and Sam Presti's like, we know now what type of players that we need on this team. Okay? Those are the 2 roster spots that need to be opened up before this next season. And that's what I'm saying is like, if we have an opportunity to do that, we got to take that. Keontae Johnson hasn't played in a lot of games. And I think that's a reason that now with 32 games left, he can play pretty much every game if he needs to. So there's certain aspects of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build that we have to look at, and we have to say, is this a legitimate thing? Can Sam Presti say at this moment, I need to get this player, that player? Yeah, he could. Do I think it's likely that Sam Presti is going to go out and seek a trade? No. But if somebody gives him a deal that he cannot refuse, he's going to take it because he's an whatever. You get what I'm saying?
Optimistic.
Opportunist.
Opportunist. Thank you.
Yes, opportunist GM. He's going to take an opportunity that presents himself to be able to help his team this year and in the future.
All right. So when you talk about that, that gets me pretty excited. But I'll avoid getting too excited about that until we get a little closer to those picks being solidified. The All-Star game is coming up really fast. Coach D has a chance to coach the All-Star game.
He's out of it. Chris Finch has officially taken it.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. It was it came down to the last game, which was the other night where we went to double overtime.
Yeah.
And if they won that game, then Chris Finch was in because it was tied. Head to head was tied. And then it went down to conference play, which they have. I think they were 23 and 8 or something like that, and we're 24 and 11.
It's over, bro.
Yeah. So Chris Finch took it over, bro. So
fuck that.
You know what?
Anyway,
you know what?
We got
this
the
is what's even. I'm gonna piss you off. You ready for this? I'm gonna really piss you off.
Yeah.
All right. Ant came out and recently just said that Coach Finch is going to take out the mid-range game completely out of the All-Star game. If you go mid-range, he's going to go bench, get in the game. That was a direct strike to Shea, bro. Direct strike to Shea. He was letting Shea know, if you go to your mid-range game, Coach Finch is going to take you out and put me in.
Start jacking up threes, man.
Doesn't it piss you off, dude? Like Ant is already out there talking shit. Like he deserves to be the one starting and not Shea. Like he's the one that's making what's going to happen next happen.
You know, the thing about the Wolves, right, is you would think that they've done something by now. You know what they remind me a lot of right now? Remember how the Grizzlies were just talking so much smack a couple of years ago, dude? And they were out there and they were like, we're the toast of the town. We're going to take over the NBA. They were acting like the Warriors were like, who are you? Yeah. You know, whatever. And Clay kept being like, how many rings you got? 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, now we have to deal with the Wolves talking smack. It's okay. It's okay. Like, we know what they look like now when they think they're the front runners for the first half of the season, dude. They put a big target on their back. It's okay. Like, I'm not worried about the Wolves at all. I know a lot of people are starting to get worried about the Wolves. I said it over and over and over again since before the season started. There's nothing about the Wolves that intimidates me in a 7-game series. It is like if you were to go against the 1990s New York Knicks in a modern NBA 7-game series, would you really be like, oh man, this team is just killer with what they have? It's like, no. Like, that team couldn't keep up with the modern game. Like,
no.
The Wolves want to play games in the fucking 80s, bro. If they have like an 85 to 90 score, they call that a good game. This is like whatever. Chris Finch is an excellent coach, but other than that, like, I really don't have a lot of. Yeah, I mean, I don't like. They're not a 7-game series team. They're just not. Like, there's nothing about them the 7-game series team, and the only team that they'll beat in the 7-game series would be if somehow the Lakers slip into the first round. And then they'd be like, oh, we beat the king. Like,
No,
man,
no,
and they probably would talk their way out of that win, just like
I was
Dylan
gonna
Brooks
say,
did.
man, if there was a team that was going to be able to lose in the first round, that's going to be a high ranked in top four. I would believe the Wolves are going to end up being the top four. Has to be the Wolves, man. They like let's just like they're one player away from being able to be complete collapse. And if LeBron played against them, he would pick on them like a motherfucker.
They're one good coach going up against one good coach from collapsing. Like the right type of defense against that Wolves offense is not going to work. And the right type of offense will just torch that defense.
I
The
know,
thing is,
dude.
like
It's insane.
they're tough to play against in the NBA schedule. But when you get 7 games on the team and you're like, we're going to just keep on scratching that itch as long as you don't, work it. Like you can't run a bunch of slow-footed big men out there. Even Nas Reed is pretty versatile for what he does, but like
Dude,
this is not that, dude.
Chet made the French big man look dumb last time we played him. Like Chet brought him out in the perimeter and he's made him look lost. And you say, okay, but yeah, that's because Chet's so good. But you guys got to just stop and just like say that again. Chet made the what 3-time, 4-time defensive player of the year look fucking stupid out there.
Stupid.
And that's what's happening. Like Chet isn't going to go out there and dominate every single game right now. It's the consistency that happens after your second or third year that we're going to see Chet grow into. But what we're seeing from Chet in these times against the Wolves and the times against other teams that come out ready to play that have big men, we're seeing a step up in a way that we haven't seen before. And as a huge fan, I can't help but wonder how much better Chet is going to be with a player like Jay Will that is consistently out there. And I want to say this about Jay Will. Huge shout out to Jalen Williams. He has been playing outstanding recently in that I would call that Charles Barkley role, like rough, tough,
Mm.
mean, like bodying it up. He's getting some blocks like crazy right now. Um, Taking the charges still. Like he's doing the dirty work. And when he's lined up next to Chet, it's the most fluent basketball that we play. It just is. Like you see Chet and Jay Will setting screens at the perimeter. They're wide screens. People have trouble getting around them. And then we just get people open all the time. So, people are saying, well, we need this type of big man. We need this type of big man. No, what we need is Jay Will to continue to develop. What we need is Dort to continue to develop and Josh Giddey to continue to develop. We need these guys to continue to develop in our system. Because if these guys continue to develop in the system, it's not going to be we need this player or that player, right? It's the system has worked its way out. We saw what happened when these guys are patients, when this team was really good on fast break defense in the beginning, and then they made it into a better defense. I think we made last year was a top 12 team in defense last year. And then this year's huge jump to defense, like it's all part of the system is that coach and Sam at the end of the year get together and talk about what their needs are to make the defense better, to make the offense better. And he goes out and gets those players. So to me, it's about just trusting the system. I know people are saying trade, 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 and we open the discussions for trade. And that's what that is, guys. We want you guys to talk about the trade. We want everybody to be in the discussion about the trade, throwing your ideas in the chat. It's all about that, guys, because this is what Oklahoma City Thunder is all about, is sitting down, watching and observing what is going on next. Josh Giddey isn't going anywhere. We can all just stop with that because Josh Giddey becomes triple the value he is currently worth right now in the offseason. So there's no reason for anybody to say that Josh Giddey's on his way out because he's not.
I just wish we could all agree on that, but I get it. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and like I mentioned to you, Jay, I love you in spite of all the
What's up, Rob?
horrible things I've said about you.
Jay,
I
dude.
still love you.
What's up, guys?
I've said some pretty horrible things about you, Jay. But I still love you.
No, you haven't, dude. You have not said anything horrible about Jay.
Just not on the air, Dave.
We just Jay called us out for the longest time, man. I loved it, dude. He would just call the bullshit out.
He's back to talk about how he thinks Giddey isn't a good fit. And look,
listen,
I've learned to respect his opinion because he has been ahead on some things that I didn't see coming.
Oh yeah,
this one
way ahead.
I respect that his opinion make sense in this moment, but I like to see things for the way they will be and not necessarily the way they are. And with a young player who's Josh's age, it's very easy to look at how things are instead of how they can be. And the key to looking at how they can be is to look at the person, right? Like you can't just look at somebody's game and say their game is who they will always be.
Sure.
But if you can look at a person, you say like they're relentless when it comes to work ethic. They're
Well,
committed to when it comes to team. Like that's when you can believe in somebody.
I've been listening to a number of different podcasts. All right. Young teams podcast. Okay. We're talking teams like San Antonio Spurs podcast, right? We're going over to Toronto's podcast. You know what they all say?
They want Josh Giddey.
What they want is more than anything is Josh Giddey.
Yeah, they do.
They all say, they all whisper, we want Josh Giddey. We want Josh Giddey. We want Josh Giddey. Okay. Take that in context, guys. If everybody is on the outside saying we want Josh Giddey, and Oklahoma City Thunder fans, which Twitter's full of stupid, moronic people out there, and they're saying trade, right? And everybody else saying we want Josh. Who's smart by holding Josh? The Twitter people or Sam Presti? You see what I'm saying? Like yeah. If everybody's calling we want Josh, do you think coaches or Sam Presti's getting calls about Josh? Fuck yeah, he is. On a daily basis, probably people are calling him, say, "Hey, is Josh available?" Just wondering. Do you think Sam's saying, "Yeah, he's available," or do you think Sam's saying, "Hell no, he's not available"? Because if he was available, every newscast, everybody would be talking about it because it would have been leaked already. But nothing's being leaked about it. Twitter is full of a cesspool of nastiness. There is no proof behind any of it. So for me, I'm looking at it saying, if Sam Presti's going to trade Josh Giddey, it has to come at the end of the season. Beginning of next season. It can't come before. There's zero reason it should come before. Why would you go out and take $100 bill, right? Take it to a bank and say, I'm cool with taking, I don't know, $30 in exchange for this. Why would you take $100 bill and go exchange it for $30, the same price, the same dollar? Here's a $100 bill of American money, and I want $30 in exchange for that $100 bill. Like, this is just basic market shit, bro. You're not going to do that. The only way someone's going to get Josh Giddey is if they're willing to pay what Josh is worth. And if you're not willing to pay what Josh is worth, then they're moving on. Sam's not going to talk. Like, that means, is Josh Giddey available? Hell no. No one's willing to pay what it takes to get Josh Giddey.
So I've even seen the Dallas Mavericks. They want him. Like, how much sense does that really make with their team build and like how he would fit? Like I just think in the end, even Jay said like he thinks Josh Giddey might have top 5 vision of all time, and that's why I'm like, we can agree on so many things. I feel like we're just different denominations of the Church of the Thunder. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Let me put a scenario on for you. All right. 6 seconds left in the game. Sideline, out of balance, doesn't matter. Baseline, the ball's out of balance. We've called timeout. And this is going back, let's say, the last 35 years. All right. 35 years of hoops. Who are you going to pull off and put on that sideline or out of balance play?
3 players I can think of right now.
All right.
Okay. I'm thinking Jason Kidd.
Yep.
I'm thinking Manu Ginobili. And I'm thinking Josh Giddey.
Good. I mean, that's right at where I was at. I mean, like you'd have to go pretty far back, but I mean,
Stockton would be pretty great at the end of
Pistol
the game.
Pete was amazing at it too, though.
I
saw some plays that he threw in there. But again, my point is that you have to seriously think about the history of the game in order to find a player that is as talented as Josh Giddey.
Magic would be pretty great in that spot.
Exactly. So you've got a small legendary group that we would want for players to throw the ball in that situation. And you cannot sit here and say that Josh Giddey wouldn't be there. And my question to everybody is, how much is that worth? If Josh Giddey All he does is throw the ball in balance, and the people can score 80% of the time when he throws the ball in balance. How valuable is that? How valuable in American football is a field goal kicker? How valuable is somebody in the NBA that can shoot 90% free throws? How valuable is it that these players that can close games and do these minor things that are so spectacular that you got to stop and say, he's worth it? And Josh Giddey is one of those guys that he does so many things. Open court, if he's in the
Right.
open court, I mean, there's nobody's going to stop where he's going. Like he's redefining how to pass the ball. And that's shout out to Footy.
This is what I'm saying too. Like, if he just was a passer, he would be worth it. But then he goes out and he leads the team in scoring against Charlotte. And it's like, so he's not just a passer. And he's also one of the best rebounders on the team. So he's not just a passer. And it's like, I get it that if you want to be critical of him, you can say, well, the most important skill to have around Shea would be perimeter shooting. That's a very good argument, and I don't disagree with it. But to say that no other skill matters around Shea is sort of asinine. And
you're right.
To say a 21-year-old who hasn't figured out his three-point shot but does other things at an elite level won't ever become a true valuable. That's where I'm like, look, man, you may believe that you're the biggest Thunder fan ever, but when you come to the conclusion that we should let go of somebody who has all these skills simply because he doesn't play the game to your taste, like that's where I'm just like, you're a fan of the Thunder in as long as they fit your model, right? You're not actually like a diehard fan of the Thunder, because a diehard fan of the Thunder isn't trying to trade one of the starters for nothing. And what my only fucking point is, you see people like Kevin O'Connor like loudly leading this thing, and he's from an outside media thing. And of course, dude, can you imagine Boston would go crazy for Josh Giddey right now?
Dude.
Like, he's a connector of players, and he can run any offense. He's gonna go out and he's gonna play for Australia in the Olympics.
Can you imagine Josh in Boston? Imagine 6 seconds left with Josh to the sideline out of balance. I mean, seriously, guys, think about that. Like, people would be vibing at a whole new level. So why can't Oklahoma City Thunder Twitter fans enjoy him like the rest of us? Why can't they? Let me just put this in the plainest and most simple way.
Because they're miserable people.
No, and they don't understand the game because they've been led astray by listening to the wrong Oklahoma City Thunder media, listening to the wrong Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, by saying that there is a way to have a perfect team by trading. There is a way to have a perfect team by taking Josh Giddey out of it and replacing him with a big man. But let me just tell you guys, and Sam Presti says it the best, there's no easy way to win. There's no easy way to get to the victory. You have to pay the toll. And Sam Presti understands that. And if you're sitting there saying, we have to trade Josh Giddey, we got to get rid of Josh Giddey, it's because you do not understand the concept of one thing, patience. And that's not our fault. That's not our fault here in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, the podcast to listen to right here, The Last Storm. That's not our fault, because we've been preaching it since day one. You need guys like Josh Giddey. You need guys like Chet. You need guys like Shea. You need guys like J-Dub. You need guys like Dort in order to complete a team. Chemistry, a team, guys. You just don't want to pull apart and try to make this a Clippers team, or you don't want to pull this team apart and try to make it like the Suns team. No, fuck no. Keep your bullshit away from us. This podcast is only about players that are positive in Oklahoma City. And you can say anything you want about this team. When push comes to shove, you don't run it. You don't understand it, because we don't understand it. And we for sure as fuck don't run the team. But we sit there and we support Sam Presti because he has the vision to make this team into a championship caliber team. And the only way there is by listening to Sam and understanding Sam. And Sam tells you guys every single beginning of the season what the goal is that season. And yet sometimes people still can't get it through their fucking brains that this is the way the Oklahoma City Thunder run the team. What makes us different here, what makes us, our fan base different, our listeners different, is one fucking thing. They're willing to listen to Sam Presti and what he is currently saying at the very fucking moment, and they take him for his word. They don't try to twist his words into something that's like, Oh, here you go. This is what Sam's saying. He's looking for the greatest team of all time. So thus he's going to trade away everybody to get there. No. Sam Presti's going to do it his fucking way. And we're all just here watching it. We have no say in it at all. So why don't we just fucking enjoy it?
That's right, baby. And if you guys roll with us, then we'll fuck with you. And if not, you can fuck off. Because we don't fuck with you.
We love you guys.
See you next time.